What's up, Change the Channel podcast listeners? My name is Megan Grace, and this is another episode of Change the Channel podcast. Welcome back to the show. I am recording today in Portland, and it is beautiful outside. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, the flowers are coming up. It's after the eclipse. It just feels like the air is clean and clear, and that possibilities are brewing and around every corner. So just wanted to be in a little bit of that spirit and that space with you all. And I hope that this is finding you and also a place of spaciousness. On today's episode, I would love to change the channel on the message, nice girls don't get mad. You can also please use that with, any gender identity that feels best for you. But for this podcast, I'm just going to stick with the concept of nice girls because that was my lived experience. So this week was a bit of a doozy for me. I'm not going to lie. There was so much movement. I had just come back from one of my really good friends' weddings in Memphis. There was travel. There was all the joy, all the in the moment things that are needed for a wedding. And I was feeling both emotionally filled up because it was so wonderful to be in that space and I love my friends so much. I was also feeling pretty tired and run down and on, just kind of that last bit of fumes. And one thing about me, I don't know if you can tell from the podcast, but I tend to like to find the positive in most things. I like to share what went well. I like to relish in people's victories. I love to be available as much as possible because people are my world. And so when anger becomes a part of my experience, or when I reach my max capacity, it is like an out-of-body experience for me. And after coming back from days of travel, sleeping in a different bed, being, kind of on other people's schedules, all for good reasons. But I was realizing that somatically, my body was just ripe to not be, I guess, my typical self. So I had come back and me and my housemate, who I deeply love, I've lived with her for over 4 years, which is wild to imagine. And we generally get along really, really well. And the message, the channel that was running in my mind was my housemate needs something. Her needs are important, which they are, but almost this nice girls don't get mad message was stopping me from sharing what I needed about this kind of mutual thing that we were working on. We're in the hunt for housemates, and that has become kind of a multi-layered catalyst to bring up, quite honestly, a lot of my triggers from the past and also some of hers too. So this was a breeding ground for for confusion, for emotion, and both of us just at the ready, essentially. And so her needs were basically equal and opposite to what I was needing. And so, as you can imagine, there was some conflict. And it was such a wild experience for me to not have bandwidth to, to sit and be in the moment and to process whatever was needed. Like I said, I'm generally a really even keel person. I'm able to see things from multiple sides. As a woman that grew up in a family that had a lot of religious traditions, I learned to be patient. Love is kind. Love, is all giving. I kind of had just learned to forget that I had needs at all. And in this moment, my need was just to be able to settle back into the house before trying to do work style things with the house. And my housemate's need was to clarify, and wanted to kind of, just verbally go over the roommate interviews that we were going to be doing. And I snapped. I just was like, it was almost like the emotion within my body didn't have words yet, but I knew what I couldn't do. I didn't know what I could do. And as I felt this boiling pressure, when I came downstairs and I was like, she's going to want to talk about this. And I just know I don't want to talk about this. And sure as shit, she wanted to talk about it. And my whole body went into this reaction of feeling angry, feeling trapped, feeling a bunch of old things that really had very little to do with what was going on in that moment. And I was outside of myself. We needed an adultier adult in the room for me. And I, basically told her, I have to leave. I have to get out of here. I need to go for a walk. You've never seen me this angry before. And I have no idea what I'm going to say. And I don't want to say it to you because I need to find myself. And in that moment, I realized that so much of the channel that was going through my head was, you're a coach, you've trained for this stuff. Why can't you be better in this moment? Or, anger is a dangerous emotion. People don't like people that are angry. Or, you're wrong or bad because XYZ. There was just like this sort of dodgeball game of shame shit show going on inside of my body, while I was also more angry than I've been in a long time. It was coursing through my veins. And I was like, the only words I could really get out were, I need to go. I need to leave. It was the flight response and the fight or flight. And, bless her heart, she wanted to make things right again. And so she came and was trying to talk to me more and just said, I can't talk to you. I need to leave. And, what I learned from that as I left the house, as I couldn't breathe, I was feeling so much in my body. And I realized that because the message that I'd received and that I tell myself often is nice girls don't get mad, that I had made myself wrong for feeling angry. And when I did that, it didn't actually solve the problem. It didn't help me listen better. It didn't help me connect better with my friend. All it did was disconnect me from my core sense of self. And then, which essentially it was like unplugging my power. And so one thing I am very grateful for is the knowledge that I know in my body. And this is kind of a cool thing for you to also know is, when your body goes through, a trigger or feeling of fight or flight, the chemical bath that moves through your body takes anywhere, I believe it's 20 minutes to an hour. I often like to just think about 45 minutes for that chemical bath to work its way through and out through the proper channels of your body. That's why, when a rabbit is being chased and it gets away, it goes under a bush once the threat is gone. And it just shakes. It shakes off all of that energy, all of the anger, all of the fear, all of the worry. And so as I was taking this walk and I was feeling, the pressure in my chest and in my throat and in my legs, and I was witnessing my brain just racing as if I was being chased by a lion or something. And to be fair, my housemate is not a lion, nor is she mean or bad or problematic. She just likes to talk about things that I didn't have bandwidth or space to talk about. And so basically, taking this walk and being present to watch myself come back online within my body and realize that the anger that I was feeling, part of the problem of it all was that I had told myself I'm not allowed to feel angry. And I didn't do that necessarily consciously, or I didn't sit down and like shame my inner child, but there was this embodied, embedded message that being angry makes me lose somehow. That the one that's in control of themselves is the one that wins the battle or something. And what that subtle message over time had done was had me deny the opportunity to say my needs, because anytime I felt frustrated or angry, I felt like a bad person. So I just squashed it down and said, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. And it was until it wasn't, which is a lot of times how this stuff works. So as I was taking this walk, as I found my center, I found my understanding, and, my memory was like, okay, I just need to go for this walk for like 20 minutes, half an hour, let my dog sniff, let my eyes see that I'm not trapped, let my body feel that I'm not frozen, let my breathing regulate. Then it was like anger was the catalyst that allowed me to say how much I didn't feel like my boundaries were being respected on this topic, which, as I'm saying it right now, a few days past, I can say with, a normal cadence and tone, right? Because I'm not shaming myself for being mad. I'm inviting curiosity into what was it about that experience that made me so mad? And later, I was talking to my therapist about it, and we did a whole body scan, just this process of tightening your muscles and relaxing them and breathing and seeing what messages came up. And what I realized is the emotion that I was feeling underneath the mover of anger was actually fear. And the fear had come from, a situation that had happened back in December where I had felt really pinned down in a room or a space, and someone else's need to talk or need to be present or kind of big demonstrative energy, like, had made me feel pinned in a corner. And so when my body feels pinned, I'm now learning that evokes fear, which wakes up anger to protect me. And all of that stuff, all of those realizations, all of that understanding is only possible when I lose the shitty channel that says that I'm not, that to be a good woman or a good girl or a nice friend, nice person, that I'm not allowed to feel angry. You are allowed to feel angry. You are allowed to have rage in your body. You are allowed to get curious about what might that anger or that rage be honoring, protecting, evoking, and what messages needed to be released to allow you to come back to maybe a more balanced, easeful place for yourself. And so, yeah, I realized that it was so important for me to be able to talk about it outside of the space, outside of being, really intense. And also, I needed to leave the space that I was in. Once your body gets that flood of hormones, then, they're really, nothing positive is going to happen from that point on. It's kind of like, well, let's go reset, come back together. And my housemate and I, because we have a relationship of trust. We do understand each other. We care for each other. I came back from my walk. She had sat down with this adorable little poncho and had made a list of where she was coming from. And we started to talk, and we actually found where the misunderstanding was. And once the misunderstanding was spoken, and once we realized, the patterns or the hurt feelings that had come up, we could resolve it. And the emotion felt less, and the agency felt more within my body. And that's what getting curious about big emotions like anger and sadness can do. When you get curious about it and don't shame yourself for having them, then we can get down to the beautiful art of knowing yourself more. Because now for me, when I start to note it, I can almost walk it back a little bit more, like, okay, I'm getting frustrated, where maybe this topic is being brought up multiple times. I'm starting to feel frustrated. What do I do about that? Instead of smushing it down, saying, I'm not allowed to feel that way. Now I know that if I keep doing that, I'm going to have more of an explosive episode, and I'm not really trying to do that all the time. So now, what if the channel is my anger is welcome and a teacher? What are you trying to teach? My anger is a friend. What are you trying to help with? My anger is the other side of love. What love is meant to be brought forward into this moment. And with that allows so much more agency to be real and true and authentic with my friends. Because while I do love to be someone that is well-resourced and is able to, clearly communicate and do all this stuff, I actually spend a lot of time, working to be that person. I guess it turns out that this other channel of perfectionism and the message that I am a limitless well of patience, turns out is not true. And I'm actually really grateful that I know that. And I'm grateful for friendships to invest in that allow me to also know myself more deeply and to move away from the idea that the best thing I can be is nice and quiet and accommodating, where what I can also be is a person that steps away from things that are getting too heavy and comes back when I'm in my body. Maybe I'm a person that actually feels a lot of anger. And what if I can change the meaning behind the anger from it's wrong or I'm somehow not good to I'm curious and I'm a person that feels deeply. And let's be honest, this world has a lot of reasons to be mad. So maybe I just feel some of them. And what if that doesn't mean anything about me other than I'm a person that's experienced the emotion of anger? And so for you out there, people that, listeners that have that same channel, different messages around an emotion like anger or sadness, experiences like vulnerability, if you brace yourself against them, my invitation to you is to lean into curiosity and ask what they're trying to tell you. If you assumed that the anger had showed up to be your best advocate, your best ally, your best friend, why might it be showing up? And what is it asking for? What does it need? And what is it inviting you to bring into your life to provide for those things? So for me, the anger was inviting me to use my voice, set a boundary, stay with the boundary, which is a whole other podcast episode in and of itself. But for you, listener, what does anger mean to you? What has anger been shared with you that it means? And is your story around what anger is your story, or is it something that's been inherited from someone else? Kind of like my story of anger is a lot of what my parents have thought and said, and I didn't realize it until actually this engagement with this friend of mine, that anger means something different to me. And it's really important for me to have agency over that, to know what it is. That way I can work with it as opposed to resist it, because what we resist persists. And this level of discomfort that was in my body, the big moving rage that was coming up and out and through, was not something that was sustainable. And so, yeah, it was just good. So some takeaways from this winding story of many angles and things is, number one, what is the channel that you listen to that talks about having feelings like anger or big feelings? Number two, do you like that channel? Is that channel serving you? Or is there any adaptations you'd like to do about it? Number three, gratitude for that channel. How has that channel served me? Where did it come from? Thanking it for showing up to be something that helps keep you safe. And then the next kind of facet and thought process of all of this is the idea that you can still be a nice person, a nice girl, good girl, and experience big feelings like anger. Those two can coincide together. And then also this idea that once your physiology is tripped to say that you are in a space of fight or flight, give yourself the 20 minutes to an hour, if you can, to change what you see, what you taste, what you touch, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste. Like, allow your senses to bring you back to your body. So take a walk, open a window, change the music you're listening to, stand up and shake around, go into your car and yell. Change your state where you're being, from standing to sitting, inside to outside, being still to movement. Change your state to change your internal state, which is moving from agitation to calm, from being, disassociated from my body to being connected to my body again. That required me to actually change my state, change where I was. So I hope that's helpful. Again, I'm so grateful for this friendship that I have, for these emotions and things to come forward and come up and be able to be resolved and talked through. And yeah, so the channel that I'm living with now is, I'm a person that feels, I give myself permission to be a person that feels all types of feelings. And I trust that the relationships that I choose to be in are going to be able to be with me in a variety of feelings, not just showing up as the nice girl, the good girl, the never ending well. Because it was funny, my friend even said, I've never seen you angry before. And I'm like, well, that's on purpose. I don't let people see that I'm angry. And so much shifted and changed for us in our conversation when I actually let her see I was mad. So is there someone in your life that is close to you that doesn't actually know how big the feelings that you have are? Is there a safe way to introduce them to those feelings? And if you don't have people in your life that are that way, maybe it's time to do an energy audit on who gets to have access to you. But again, that's for another podcast. All right, y'all. Big deep breaths. That was it's coming in hot with some anger and some realizations and some big feelings, and just wanted to invite you as we're closing to take a couple deep breaths, breathing in the courage and the understanding that you are able to manage and deal with big feelings, breathing out any judgment that you felt about yourself for feeling those feelings, breathing in calmness, clarity, easefulness, breathing out exhaustion, resentment, breathing in calm, clarity, breathing out any last remnants that no longer serve. One more big collective breath, breathing in, and then exhaling out. Okay. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here along for the ride. I will put in the show notes my Instagram. I'd love for you to come over, comment any of these things that work for you, resonate with you, follow along for more tips and tricks on ways to somatically connect with yourself, balance your nervous system, and become curious about yourself as a person in a body in this world. And yeah, thank you again for being here with me. And as always, go forth in your world and change the channel, brave ones. All right, babes, have a good one.